Capitalk 100.4 FM. Harare's heartbeat.
It is 28 minutes to 7 o'clock as we continue on in the Capitalk Forum. Joining me now in this conversation as we continue to commemorate the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Today marks day number 2. I am joined by Sipho Mpofu Marutsi. She is with Shamwari Yemwanasikana. She is with the ME. Okay, you're going to... Sipho, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Wonderful to have you on the program. So I was just
Thank
explaining, trying to introduce you to our listeners. You are with Shamwari Yemwanasikana. Tell us a little bit about the department that you head and the work that you're doing.
Okay, so thank you. My name is Sipho Mpofu from Shamwari Yemwanasikana. Sipho Mpofu Marutsi, Shamwari Yemwanasikana. I'm the development, monitoring, and evaluation lead for Shamwari Yemwanasikana. So, Shamwari Yemwanasikana, our work is centered around promoting and advancing the rights of the girl child and children as well. So, in my department, we spearhead campaigns against 16 days against gender-based violence, and we also do programs aimed at equipping young girls and women with skills for self-sustenance and independence in terms of their economics and how they carry themselves around.
That's fantastic. So it's definitely very important that we're having this discussion with you. As you highlighted, your work is centered a lot around ending gender-based violence. We want to explore some of the complex issues around this very special time that we're in, the 16 days of activism. This year's theme is Unite to End Gender-Based Violence Against Women and Girls. What does this mean, particularly for you in the work that you do, and how are you working to promote unity in the fight against gender-based violence?
Okay, thank you. So this thing to us, it means that everyone should put their hands on deck for us to end violence against women and girls. We need collective efforts. We need collaborative efforts. Everyone needs to be on deck. Everyone needs to be involved. As violence emanates from various forms, and also it manifests within our societies, be it in the church, be it in the tax ranks, be it in the bus terminals, wherever we are, it's a potential risk for violence against women and girls. So to us, this year, we call for all sectors to be united in fighting against gender-based violence.
And it's always good to go back to basics, Sipho. You know, a lot of people just think, that time has come again. And they might not understand how these issues really hit home. Let's talk about gender-based violence in its common forms. What is gender-based violence? How does it manifest? Give us some examples so people can really understand that we're fighting against a real, what can I call it? It's a beast, it's a dragon, it's a pandemic of gender-based violence.
In recent, Catherine, gender-based violence is manifested in quite a number of forms. We are violence, sexual violence, sexual exploitation. All those are forms of gender-based violence. We also even have emotional abuse of partners in relationships. That's also a form of gender-based violence. We also have physical abuse or physical violence against women, or even against men. We are now having cases of men who are being abused as well. So gender-based violence is not only about women, it's about everyone, it's about all humanity. So yeah, that's what I can say about gender-based violence.
So let's talk about how it manifests. Say, what are some of the forms that you encounter of gender-based violence? The most common forms. A lot of people know about physical violence, but tell us what some of the most common forms of gender-based violence are that people could be perhaps they're dealing with them, perhaps we are perpetrators and we don't even know.
Okay, so the most violence that most of us know is the physical abuse. That's the most common one that we... Yet, saying hateful speech to someone is violence in some form, and most of us, we perpetrate that unknowingly. Not knowing that insulting someone, be it physically, be it online, be it ever on what platform, that's a form of violence and is the most common one now, cyberbullying and cyber attacking of others. That's the most common one that we now experience, and we have been receiving cases around that. Unfortunately, most of the people, they don't report those cases because they believe or they think there is no solution to their cases. Yet, as a nation, with the Cyber Protection Act that guards against all issues of cyberbullying and cyber violence, and also cases of sexual abuse to minors. We've been receiving quite a number of those where minors are being exploited in exchange of petty things such as cash or even just little things that we can think of, and also cases of intimate partner violence where two people who are in a relationship end up fighting each other, be it physically or even emotionally. Yeah, those are some of the cases that we receive when it comes to issues of gender-based violence.
And you should rightfully say by social media, but I think mabata vakawanda because there are several acts of violence happening each and every day, fitting that definition there. Let's talk about engaging now with local communities to raise awareness about gender-based violence. How are you doing this as Shamwari Yemwanasikana? And how does this promote a culture of zero tolerance towards all acts of gender-based violence?
Okay, as Shamwari Yemwanasikana, we've been doing our campaign. We don't only wait for the 16 days for us to raise awareness on gender-based violence. We have moved from the 16 to 365, where we are saying every day is a day to be active, every be engaging communities, to be engaging societies on gender-based violence, saying no, no matter any circumstances. We have been seeing a trend whereby it's no longer about men fighting women. It's now women fighting women, which is a worrisome trend, given that women are known to be passionate, to be loving people. But now trends are changing. Vakazi, they are now fighting themselves, men, or even over petty issues. So we have seen that change, and we have been engaging with women on various platforms, Muma communities. It's not not talk as a Shamwari Yemwanasikana. Women and men who are in communities championing issues of gender equality, championing issues against gender-based violence, saying no to gender-based violence in any circumstance.
And Baka Kosha Papa, you talk about, woman on woman violence. Give us examples of this. Are you talking about the instances where Tarambo Maonoma video and speak to the lawfulness of that? Maybe, me Rumbi finds out, that there's another lady in the picture. Is that what you're talking about? How are women inflicting violence on other women?
Those issues that we see on social media are just a tip of an iceberg. A lot is happening with women fighting over small things, just like fighting over issues of children who are fighting as they are playing. We have received cases of women who fight over their children's cases or issues. Those are the cases that we're receiving. And some of them are not hospitalized because of that. Unfortunately, those who are victims of those cases, because they feel it's their fault, if someone could violate the way they have been violated, of which is not a fault who are violated in any way. As a woman, you should report if anything happens to you. Whether you should be in a position to report. And women, we always encourage them to desist from violently attacking other women, because that is in the trend and it's growing and it's really worrisome on our end. We've been receiving cases. Someone to pay in the process. Fighting over men as well is something that is on the rise. We've been receiving such cases. And unfortunately, I end up no reporter because she feels she's at fault. Overtaking a man, of which we believe no man is taken.
That's controversial. All right, and there's no such thing as a man thief. Munano indari willing, and violence is not condoned in any shape, way, or form. And hanzi kunyangwewe warowa une mvumo yekuendawo kumapurisa kumadzitare emhosva, and you can get protection. I think that's a very important point that Sipo is making. We also hear, gender-based violence doesn't just talk about the violence that is met upon women and girls, even though women are more vulnerable, and statistically we've seen that more women and girls are victims of gender-based violence. What happens when a man is beaten up or a man is subjected to gender-based violence? That's often a question we hear, Sipo, around this issue. How are we also bringing on board men and boys in preventing gender-based violence? How are they also being protected when they're victims?
Hello?
Hi, Sipo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I lost you a little bit. Now I can. Okay, so in our work as Shamwari, we have where we engage men and boys in their own spaces, talking to do with gender, not only focusing on violence, but things that men can do to ensure or influence positive masculinity, where we are saying men are now champions. Men are now fighting for their sisters. They're now fighting for their mothers. They're now fighting for their aunts to be free and to be free from violence and any other form of exploitation that they may face within communities. And also engage men to fight stereotypes around men, because mostly are misconceptualized as women issues. Yet even men are also involved. Trends are changing. So talking about these issues that we provide as Yemwanasikana, it ensures that men light in issues of gender. They also get to understand the concepts around gender, because they are all embraced. Only involve men, women only, but also men can be part of them. So as Yemwanasikana, we also have an initiative that we have, yet not men as role model awards, where we celebrate men and boys in communities who have committed themselves to foster and push for issues of gender. That's what we do at Shamwari. It is not my men as role model awards. Ekuti tino award varume vanozvipira kanda kuenda kushandira kubvisa mirishonga mumadzimai pamwe chete nekubvisa mirishonga munharaunda dzavanoraramira, making sure that we coexist in peace.
And it really is all about peace and achieving that. I want us to talk very quickly, Sipo, about the recourse available. What are some of the steps that should be taken by someone who is experiencing gender-based violence? They've been a victim of physical assault, emotional assault, financial assault. Maybe they have received some threatening messages on their phone. They are being attacked on social media. What are the first steps that should be taken? Perhaps just give us that quick guide for what someone who is suffering right now can do.
Okay, thank you. Someone who is suffering right now, have courage to speak up. That's the first point of departure. If you don't speak up, it will end up damaging you as a person. The first thing to do is find someone who is reliable, who you can rely on. Can I also encourage you to look for organizations just like ours? We also have Msasa, we also have Gwen, quite can assist, that have got open door policies to listen to any issue that you may be having. We have our ZRP. If you go to any police station that for the victim friendly unit, there are officers in that unit that are help people who are facing challenges emotionally or who have been assaulted in different ways. ZRP through the victim friendly unit, they have got and they can assist. But the first point of departure is speak up. Don't die in a what's the only one. You have the courage to speak up. Find someone to confide in. If you can't confide in someone close to you, find a police station that is close to you. Go to VFU. They will assist you.
Zvakakosha, please take those steps. Go and get assistance. We are talking to Sipho Mpofu-Marutsi with Shamwari Yemwanasikana as we shine the spotlight on empowering women and combating all forms of gender-based violence. We're in the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Today is day number 2, and the conversations start and continue with vigor. But I think an important point, and I think this is something that you said, Sipho, that it must be 365 days. The 16 days are very significant, yes, but we must make it our culture to end all forms of gender-based violence. You talked about economic support. I understand that one of the reasons why women and girls sometimes fall prey or become vulnerable to gender-based violence in poverty, or sometimes being left vulnerable because of the economic situation. How are you supporting the economic empowerment of girls and women, and why is this so important in eliminating gender-based violence?
Okay, thank you. So issues of economic independence are very critical, and issues of bread and butter are key drivers of gender-based violence, where women solely depend on their male counterparts for support economically. So as Yemwanasikana, we've been doing quite a number of projects in our area to operate. We have established a poultry project in Seke for our teen mothers who are and for them to learn skills on how to micromanage projects for income, for them to be self-sustaining. We have also had training on detergent making for girls in Chitumbiza, particularly skills to make detergents, our dishwash, our foam bath, and petroleum jelly. So through these small projects, they can at least get something to sustain them rather than depending on the person for their sustenance.
Saka independence. And how are you then pushing this? You know, there's that traditional aspect. Now you have over-empowered the girl child, you've over-empowered the women. How are you keeping in balance with some of those societal norms, or are you breaking the barriers completely and saying these are not practices that are helping the outlook, and they're not really strengthening any gender bonds, and so they're harmful practices? What's your take on that?
Yeah, there are quite a number of stereotypes around equipping and empowering. Which is not for. It is not for. Because the world we are living in today, it requires a concerted effort from all parts. We contributed. We are living in hard times. So if we together, you bring half, I bring half to the table, then we can be sustainable as a family. So through our discussions that I mentioned earlier on, which we have planned, where we meet girls, where we meet women within communities, we discuss such issues, trying to impact men particularly with positive masculinity issues, to make sure that they embrace the changing times, they embrace working women for coexistence in peace.
Yeah. 0719100404 nyaya dzacho dziri complex zveshuwa asi dzakakosha. Hanzi mhirizhonga ngaimire, ngatingosvikawo pekuti nyangwe mukanetsana kamowana kuti motaurirana sei zvisina kurovana, kudzvinyirirana, kushandisirana mashoko asina kunaka, zvakare kana kuti unoti handira kumuindira pasocial media ndichamupedzera. All these are not acceptable ways of dealing with issues, and more importantly, there are forms of gender-based violence, which is a crime. What are some of the penalties if one is convicted of a crime, of a gender-based violence crime, whether it's domestic violence or perhaps it's a cyber crime?
On issues of policies and convictions of gender-based violence, mostly people receive fines, which is a drawback that we have realized or that we have noticed in our line of work. Most people don't report it because they feel munakaenda akandrova pasakandabvisa ndikaenda kucourt anopiwa bail odzoka back into the community. Paanenge ari within the community anenge achinda nechiine victim yake iye alleged suspect, making it difficult kuti uyu azove neconfidence in the justice system. And another thing yekuti most people vanoita violate people physically vanopiwa ma-sentences are a bit lighter, or paying a fine, or even 3 or even 4 months in jail. People don't feel kuti it's a deterrent thing enough. That's why most people take issues of being abused, if it's not physical violence, it's being violent, of which unengashtori violent my cases so those are some of the challenges that we are facing. They don't feel comfortable or feel vanoenda kunoripota nyaya dzavo munhu odzoswa mucommunity nebail ozongonzi akabhadhara fine $50 kana kuti akabhadhara fine $20 over the abuse yaanenge andiita, which are really a complex issue panhau dze-gender-based violence apa, because people they are being short-changed nekuti munhu haasi kupiwa sentence yavanenge vakapera, so they end up vasisaende kunoripota, or they end up taking the law in.
Let's dig deeper on that, Sibo. You bring about a very interesting and timely discussion, Ipapap. Recommendations around strengthening the penalties in domestic violence. What do you think would be appropriate, and why do you think, could it be the fact that, ultimately the law is not coming in to be the ultimate arbiter, because people can still get divorces, etc. They're there to give things like protection orders that are just about keeping the peace. Let's get into that.
The law, in as much as the law is concerned, mutemo iri parikuleka is the implementation or the enforcement of the laws. The stringent laws, I applaud the government of Zimbabwe really on laws and policies that they are in place. But where we need strengthening is on issues of capacities of my communities as well as law enforcement agents to see to it could whoever commits any form of violence or any criminal act in and violence in a way yekuti the communities would see justice through it. But our policies as a nation, they are good when it comes to issues of gender-based violence. And another thing that is a challenge to us in our whistleblower, yekuti munhu anoenda kunoripotera vanhu, and that person vazhinji vacho they end up as victims evanhu vanenge varipotera, because the law on that one iripo protection of my witnesses is not properly enforced. Zvokuti vazhinji vanozopedzisira vama victims evanhu reportera kuabhisa vamwe vanhu. And apo vatorwa nematemo chavo because vakareporta zvichinzi we are meddling in our business. Yet it takes a community kuti tive nepeace. Saka ipapo panofanira kugadziriswa pekuti tikwanise kuva ne-enforcement yakasimba yekuchengetedza avo vanenge vaenda kunoripota naudzi vanenge vachishunungurudzwa. Kazhinji kacho vaakutoshungurudzwawo futi nevanhu vavanenge varipotera mumacommunities mavanenge vachigara.
Asi ipapo kana inini ndikaona, okay, say anti tine third party reporting handiti sipo, and I see something not going right next door, ndoenda ndonoripota vozogadzirisana. How do you recommend we should continue to interact? Kana zvinhu zvakadaro zvaitika, it's a community, I'm not moving away, the other party is not moving out of this particular place. Saka, what can you advise us? Kuti tinozogarisana sei kana chingeta report in the aftermath? What are some recommendations you can make kuti tisazova nema problems afterwards?
Yeah, that's a complex one for sure. Most people are actually taking action because they fear that coexistence post the issue yekuti taripoterana tikazoenda tikazodzoka tese tikagarisana mucommunity. What age communities is to seek kubatsirwa pekuti we have quite a number of community champions nokwanisa kubatsira kana kuri kumareserve nemasabhuku kana kuri metown. You can make use even of your machine. Vanhu vanokwanisa kukubatsirai kuti muyayanane muzogarisana zvaitika nokuti kuti vanhu vakadzirana vanhu vaita violence vakanoripoterwa. The challenging thing because panenge pane kunongedzana kuti iwe wakambondiendesa kujere, iwe wakazondiendesa kujere, vanhu votodzokera navo vakutogarisana mumba. I urge communities kuti tibatsirane pamwe chete, tibate pamwe chete, titoavoida such things tikakwanisi kugarisana nekuda kwekuti mumwe akazonoripotera mumwe. Let's for example ngatigarisane zvakanaka pasina violence. Kana taita masituations akadaro ngatiendei kutibatsira kuti tirizovane tikugara tese zvakanaka even after tamboita macases eviolence.
Yeah, that's really important. It is complicated, very complex. Asi azofana kutaurwa zvichipera zvichifumuka. As we bring the conversation to a close this evening, Sipo, speak to the men, women, boys and girls listening. What is the message that you want to share with survivors of gender-based violence? I actually know quite a lot of heartwarming stories. People who've gone through gender-based violence are advocates now for ending gender-based violence, and they've got some very sad and traumatic stories, but they have survived. What message can you share with survivors, with people going through gender-based violence? How can they get support and just something to keep them going?
Okay, thank you. To people who are facing issues of gender-based violence, as Yemwanasikana, we sympathize with you. We feel your pain, encourage you to speak up. And we also tell you that it wasn't your fault. It's never going to be your fault for you to go through whatever that you're going through or for you to experience whatever that you're experiencing. Our way to you is speak up, have courage to fight, have courage to tell the next person, have courage to go to the relevant authorities and find redress of whatever that is happening to you. Speak up, speak up, speak up. Never die in a silo because you're going through something that is difficult. Find someone to talk to. Go to relevant authorities. Go to the VFU. Come to Shamwari Yemwanasikana. Look for you that can assist you to overcome whatever that you are facing now. It was never your fault, and it's not going to be your fault for you to experience whatever that you are in. Men out there and to boys, I say to you, gender champions, rely vanhu vakadzi vamunogara navo munharaunda. They are your sisters, they are your mothers, they are your aunties. Please fight for them. Don't be perpetrator of violence. Usava ndiwe unokurudzira mhirishonga. Iva ndiwe anyone that you are violating now is a sister to someone, and somewhere, somehow, someone will be also violating your sister. Let us be sisters keepers. Let us be brothers keepers in everything that we do for us peacefully as a nation and for progress as a nation.
Powerful message indeed. And Tinebasa Sipo, we've got a big way to go. Rakawanda. But I want to thank you and Nasisi Ekenia and the work that you guys are doing. Shamwari Yemwanasikana. Surely we will get somewhere. And as the 16 days continues, we certainly will continue to call upon you to raise awareness around issues eliminating gender-based violence.
Okay, thank you so much for raising us. So in case there is someone who is facing challenges and needs, I'm going to call out numbers where you can reach out to get assistance on anything related to gender.
Please go ahead.
07 0777 85 1120. I will go again. 0777 85 1120.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sipo. And we will certainly speak with you soon. Good night.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Now, with that, the time is 7 o'clock. It is time for the news.
You're listening to the Deep Dive on Capitalk 100.4 FM. Harari's Heartbeat.